Okay, I'm gonna look back on this video in a year to the day, June 3rd, 2024, and we're gonna see how much progress I've made. This is day zero. This isn't day one. Day one starts tomorrow because day zero implies that there's actually something to start. But today was kind of the preseason, and then the actual season begins tomorrow. I'm back in Denver after 13 months in Los Angeles. I didn't like it in LA. There's a lot of different reasons why it didn't really work out, but I guess chief among them was that it wasn't convenient nor mandatory for me to remain, in spite of it being an industry hub for the things I'm interested in and want to pursue career-wise. I didn't vibe with it. I never vibed with it. People who saw me there could tell I didn't vibe with it. My roommates knew I didn't vibe with it. So I left. And I came back to the place where I've spent most of my years on this planet. Now, there's something to be said for not leaving your hometown. There's something to be said for leaving and getting the chance to try something elsewhere. I did that for a bit, realized I didn't like it. So now I'm back here. And I think the last 13 months, the last year was easily probably one of the most meh years of my life. Because once I realized I didn't click with the place that I was, as somebody who values the concept of home as much as I do, everything from there just felt like I wasn't really in it and I couldn't put forth as much of myself as I wanted to. I wanted to reach out to friends. I hardly did that. I wanted to go out and explore. I hardly did that. I wanted to do what I could genuinely to make the most of my new situation, but every time my brain would try to adapt to being in a new space from much different from what I was used to, it felt like it always fought back against it. And there were a lot of things I just didn't do that I wanted to do. It was the worst year in overall work that I had, though that's less to do with me being in a different location. That's just kind of a coincidence with how my 2023 went for the most part. But it was the year I worked out the least, paid the least amount of attention to my weight. I bloated up a lot and lost a lot of progress from a previous weight loss effort that I had made. Probably the worst year in creative pursuits, in actually taking care of myself, which is funny because I moved to Los Angeles and it was my first apartment away from my parents' house. And even though there are some skills I think I gained from that, I still feel like it just, nothing really happened to make it very memorable or interesting or compelling enough. And I just feel like I relapsed or fell back in a lot of ways. So moving back here felt like it needed to happen with a purpose, it needed to happen with a plan. I said to myself expressly when considering, do I stay in Los Angeles for another year or do I go back to Denver? If I go back to Denver, it needs to be with some sort of path forward that I have locked in before I leave. I kind of cheated myself. I don't have a plan now that I'm back necessarily, but I do have, I think, three probably main ideas that I really want to focus on now that I am here. The first of which is I want to focus on as many of my interests as possible. I'm getting out of a mode where for about 4 years, 90% of my brain power was occupied by just thinking about what I can do for work. And it was dominated by this idea that I need to do everything I can to further my social status, further my career, further how much money I make. And it didn't take until November of last year for me to start thinking that that wasn't a healthy mindset, and it wasn't, because I neglected a lot of other things in that time span. I neglected friendships that, not to say that, all of those friendships are necessarily in a bad place now, but, I think I need to do some outreach and see if there are some people out there that still, want to be friends in the first place, because it's just been a while since I've talked to them. I neglected a lot of things I wanted to do creatively. So things like, music composition, all my guitars are sitting right there and I felt like I hardly really played any of them. Thinking about other ways that I can apply myself creatively, whether that's in video content or maybe picking up a camera again and doing photography, which is something I haven't really done before. Thinking about ways to be involved in bigger projects than just myself, or heck, even just things that I feel like I pushed a lot of myself away for the sake of kind of selling my soul away to an industry that doesn't really care about me. So that's the first thing, is to devote myself to lots of different things as opposed to just hard focusing on the one thing, because I've seen what that does, and in my case, it's not always the healthiest thing in the world. The second thing is I do think I want to go back to college, because when I stopped my program, I had 4 classes left, and it was right at the height of the pandemic, and it stopped a lot of plans for just the school in general. And then I transitioned to doing online school, got about 3 weeks into it, and said, I can't do this. But now coming back, there's the possibility of finishing it because I'm in the same state as the college that I went to. And that's kind of been looming over my head for a bit as this another goal that just gets thrown on the pile of things that I say I want to achieve, but then never start the process or get a certain distance down the road and quit right as we're approaching the finish line, which is kind of what it feels like in this case. Whether there's the potential for the completion of said degree to catapult me into something else in my industry, I don't know. I think there's not much of a chance of that because of how much extracurricular activity film school requires and how much networking is required to really catapult yourself to doing something worthwhile out of film school. Because I don't have that network anymore, it may be that I just take these last couple of classes, I get the piece of paper, and that's kind of it. But if nothing else, that would give me the personal satisfaction of finishing something that I put a lot of time into and also caused myself and my family a lot of turmoil when just trying to complete it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, it's not, I don't know if I want to call it taking better care of myself or kicking some demons, though I guess both of them fit in the same category. I have a lot of things about myself I don't like, and I want to take some time, dedicated time that is well spent on kicking some of the bad habits I have and replacing them with good ones and actually making progress in some areas that I've just kind of stagnated. I mentioned my weight. I've never liked the way I've looked as a result of my weight. It's a vain reason, but I've also not really felt very good because, my eating habits aren't fantastic. I lived in, fucking Colorado of all states for a long time and never took advantage of all the things you can do here to get fit. It's like one of the fittest cities in America, if not the fittest major city in the country. But I want to get back on my calorie tracking, and which is something I don't think I did at all during the period that I was in Los Angeles. I was just so out of it and not in a good place in LA, and that was something I neglected pretty hard. I want to get back in the gym. I want to actually go around and explore, which is something I said I was going to do in LA and didn't, but I actually feel compelled to do it here because there are pockets of this place I called home for 14 years that I still haven't explored, and I want to see what that can offer. There are some things I don't feel comfortable mentioning on camera that are some pretty hardcore vices for me that I know are problems that my life would simply be better off if I kicked or replaced with something different. But there are also things like just hardcore procrastination and vegetation doom scrolling Twitter that need to go. There's the idea of actually setting a proper sleep schedule and napping appropriately to alarms, which is something I've always struggled with, yet needs to happen at some point. And I could probably come up with a more dedicated short list of what those things are, but those are the general basic ones that come to the top of my head that I absolutely want to focus on first. So those are the 3 things. And a year from now, when I look back on this video, I don't really know how much progress I want to make or want to have made, but I definitely know that I need to move forward in some of these aspects because I'm a 25-year-old guy who ultimately hasn't really done very much with his life. I think there are some people who, if you follow the work that I do, can say, oh my God, you've done some things that hardly anybody has been able to do in their lives. But there's a difference between doing something that a lot of people perceive as cool and actually being fulfilled from your own existence. And some people might say, you're 25, you're not supposed to have your existence dialed in this young. I don't disagree, but I do believe this is one of those stages where I need to do more things to figure out what sort of life for me is worth living, because I may have dreams and aspirations, but I don't really have a way to hardcore concentrate on what those things are. So what I'm using this move back to Denver to do is to act as the catalyst to reinvigorate a portion of my brain that I locked away in LA because I was so dead on the inside being there and was unwilling to do a lot of the things I said I wanted to do because I just knew this concept of home is something I can't identify with the place that I'm currently in, so I decided to leave. And the way that I'm going to make it up to myself to move twice in 13 months and spend all this money is to make my time back here as worthwhile as I possibly can. So I hope in a year when I look back on this video, things will have been, or will have gotten better, but I say that I will have made things better. Let's put it that way. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Peace. Oh, my leg 100% fell asleep. Fuck.